is literally going to become your new drug of choice. So I got a lot of positive comments yesterday on Instagram and through our social media channels. If you've got somebody that couldn't join this, forward that breathwork challenge to them for free. Tell them how much of a difference it made for you. You know, for those of you that are just starting out, if you have a hydrogen water bottle, now is the time to drink about 8 to 10 ounces of this. That's how we're going to start the morning. If not, just make sure you're trying to drink filtered water, Mountain Valley spring water, or another spring water so it's got some minerals in it. So we're going to fuel our body in the morning. Woo! I'm going to take a metal and chemical-free cleanse. I love this stuff because most of us do have some kind of mold, mycotoxin, heavy metals. This will bind heavy and not light metals. Remember, you don't want to chelate metals out of the body because you don't want to pull vitamin B12, which is a metal. It's the cobalt metal. You don't want to pull zinc and magnesium, copper, some of these other light metals that are very beneficial for our cells. I'll put a drop of that right under the tongue. Woo! I feel amazing. Anybody cold plunge this morning? All right, because next month is a cold shower, cold plunge challenge, and we're linking up with a cold plunge manufacturer that has a $100 cold plunge, inflatable cold plunge. So for those of you that don't have a tub, I don't think that people need to go out and spend $5,000, $7,000 on a cold plunge. But if you can get these inflatables for $100 and they stay cold for days, it's amazing. If not, we're just going to do it in a cold shower because we're going to start bio-stacking some of these things together. And then today, before the end of the Zoom, I'm going to show you a 60-second technique to grow by 1/4 of an inch. It only works once. People ask me, well, is that cumulative? Can I keep doing that? But what it does, it aligns the lordotic and the kyphotic curve in our spine so that we get synovial fluid into the spine and into our joints, and you are actually 1/4 of an inch taller after this 60-second stretching technique. So we're going to do it today when we take a little break after doing some breath work before I go from the regular into the VIP Zoom. So it looks like most people are getting in and joining. When I do 30 breaths, about halfway through, I build up saliva and have to stop and spit. Absolutely. That is a great sign. If you actually have to stop your breath work and blow your nose, or you have to stop your breath work and release some phlegm, those are amazing signs for you. Remember, when we use the lobes of our lungs, you're actually pushing mucus out of your bronchioles into your esophagus and up into your mouth. Do not be embarrassed by that at all. Just take some tissues out with you, blow your nose, cough that up, sniff it in and get it out. That is excellent for you. A lot of times we actually don't rush the air past our sinuses. And by doing so, we're actually pulling mucus and pulling phlegm. I know it's a little bit gross, but we're pulling that right out of our esophagus and in our bronchial tubes. If you actually looked at the lining of your esophagus and your nasal passages, which are kind of cylindrical, right? Because we're trying to increase the amount of surface area inside of our nose for our olfactory bulb to pick up smells. One of the reasons why dogs have a greater sense of smell is they have a greater surface area. If you were to actually slice through their nasal cavity, you'd see that it has multiple turns inside of it. So inside of one cylindrical cavity, they significantly increase the surface area by 100 to 400 times. That's why their smell is so much better than humans. They can even smell a drop of sweat that's days old on the ground. So we're going to get the air in. Remember, guys, this morning, it doesn't matter if you breathe through your nose, if you breathe through your mouth. I personally don't think that you can breathe enough air in through your nose. I'm going to go over this technique again because a lot of you guys were exhaling all the way out yesterday when we would do the breath work. Remember, we're going to start with 5 breaths to get off the ground. Okay, so a single breath is going to look like this. Remember, you're going to breathe out until you're just relaxed. You're not going to exhale that unexpired air. You're not going to do that. You're going to breathe in just until you're relaxed, and then not expel that last air. I want some room in the lungs for carbon dioxide to build up. I also want you to think about this. You hear me say all the time that the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. You know, for 22 years, I was in the mortality space. 6 to 10 hours a day, I read medical records. I extracted information from those medical records, put it into a specialized report, and then we put it into a probabilistic mortality model. That's a fancy way of saying a model that used large data to predict people's life expectancy to the month. And I'm not saying that everybody's life expectancy that we predicted, you know, left this earth during that month, but it was extraordinarily accurate. You know, these financial services companies, annuity companies, reverse mortgages, life insurance, they are some of the most solvent financial institutions in the world. You know, during the 2008-2009 financial services crisis, we had 364 banks failed. Not a single life insurance company failed. And the reason why they didn't is because they're so financially solvent. A valid death claim in America has never failed to have been paid. Yet only 2% of life insurance policies ever pay a death claim. 98% of all life insurance policies lapse. But the institutions and the teams I was associated with, we were very accurate at predicting mortality. And I can tell you, when the human body is low on oxygen, every form of disease accelerates. Autoimmune disease, type 2 diabetes, anemias, all kinds of psychiatric conditions. Sitting is the new smoking. So that's why breathwork is so important for us. We can actually elevate our mood. We can elevate our emotional state. We can power up our immune system. And like I talked about yesterday, if you were to go inside the wall of one of your cells and find a little organelle called the mitochondria, this is the powerhouse of the cell. This is how human beings are powered. We are not powered by the air we breathe, the water we drink, or the food that we eat. At the end of the day, we are powered by something called ATP. And it's made in this little organelle called the mitochondria. And the mitochondria has a little motor inside of it. You might have heard me talk about this. It's called the Krebs cycle. And every time this motor makes one revolution, it has two choices. It can either create 2 units of energy, 2 ATP, or it can create 36 units of energy, 36 ATP. So it's either 16 times more powerful or it's 16 times less powerful. Do you know what determines whether or not it's 16 times more powerful or 16 times less powerful? Somebody texted into the chat. Also, is it possible to access the fasting challenge? Can they still download my fasting guide?
Yes.
Yes, they can on theultimatehuman.com. The presence of oxygen. Who said that? Tish Mangold. Congratulations. Yes, the presence of oxygen. If oxygen enters that cycle, it is 16 times more powerful. Now, I want you to think of something. What happens when we lay down and go to sleep at night? Our respiratory rate starts to fall. As our respiratory rate starts to fall, we are bringing in less oxygen. Also, our respiratory volume falls. We start to breathe very shallowly. So what happens when we breathe shallow? Well, from the tip of our nose and the front of our mouth, all the way to the back of our nasopharynx, down our esophagus, out into the bronchioles of the lungs, and then through and all the way down into our alveoli. All of this air is expired air. All of that air is just carbon dioxide. It's air that we haven't all the way breathed out. So that means in order for you to bring oxygen into your body, you have to pull the air from the front of your lips and the tip of your nose to the back of your nasopharynx, down your esophagus, out into your bronchioles, into those alveoli, deep into the lungs. If you don't get air from here to here, then you're not getting oxygen. And this is why very often we wake up sore and achy in the morning. The soles of our feet and ankles are tender when we get out of bed to walk to the bathroom and take our first pee. We take so many minutes to get the motor going. A lot of times you're thinking that it's because you took Tylenol PM the night before, or you took Lunesta or some other kind of sleep aid, zolpidem nitrate, diazepam, which I am not a fan of any of those. I'm a fan of natural metabolites to sleep: magnesium, theanine, especially magnesium threonate, and also low dose melatonin, no more than 3 milligrams of melatonin. Some people do great with melatonin, some actually don't. And that's why breath work is so important, because what's been happening all night, you've been mildly suffocating. You're actually tired and foggy and sometimes a little sore and achy, not because of what you took the night before, but because you have been mildly suffocating for 6 to 8 hours. And so the best thing that we can do is shock the body with fresh oxygen in the mornings. One of the reasons why you get so much more lightheaded on the first round of breath work than you do on the last round of breath work is you are beginning to change that oxygen tension. High amounts of nitric oxide, high amounts of carbon dioxide that have actually built up in your tissues, built up in your brain, built up in your lungs. We're flushing all of that out. So I just wish I could impress upon you that, the benefit that you are giving your body. You're really showing your body that you love yourself in the morning by doing breath work. So I started with a little hydrogen water. I had some Baja Gold salt. If you can't get the Baja Gold salt, get the Celtic sea salt. Add that to your drinking water in the morning and whack it back. So are we ready to start our first round of breath work? All right. Can I get a few thumbs ups? I know I have some hands up for some questions. Get some thumbs up. All right. Let's do it, guys. I want you to sit comfortably or lie down. Please, if you're driving, please. I had a lot of people that were dialing in yesterday for questions that were driving. I should make it a rule that you have to pull over. Please don't do this while you're driving. Do not do it in the shower while you're standing up. Do not do it, if you're up and walking around. Sit down comfortably or lay down even before you start your breath work. And let's just get ourselves in the mood for breath work. We're just going to take one long, slow, deep breath in, and we're just going to breathe out through a straw. We're going to purse our lips and breathe out through a straw. Just take that breath in. Hold, 2, 3, 4, and out through a straw. Okay, we're going to prepare our body for this breath work challenge. The first round is going to be one round of 5 breaths. On the 5th breath, we are going to exhale and we're going to hold. I'm only going to hold for 30 seconds. On the last day, I'm going to let you hold as long as you possibly can. But if you were doing this breath work on your own, I'd want you to exhale and hold as long as you can. Remember, during this 30 seconds, I want you to get outside of your head. I want you to find something in your outside environment to pay attention to. If you're outside, listen to a bird, a car going by on the causeway, a motorcycle buzzing down the street, a police car or a siren off in the distance, an airplane going by. Find something to focus on outside of your head, and I want you to key into that activity, and I want you to imagine what that activity is doing. If you got kids in the house, listen for the kids. If you got dogs in the house, listen to your dogs. If your spouse is not doing this, tell them to sit down and do it with you. But I want you to just get out of your head, okay? And not focus on how much you want to breathe. All right, ready? Here we go. We're going to do our first round of 5 breaths. I want you to breathe obnoxiously deep, like you have been underwater for 2 minutes and you just broke the surface of the water. I want your neighbors to hear it. If you're on your balcony, I want your neighbors to think that you are in a cult, that there is something freaky going on. I want you to breathe obnoxiously deep. We're going to pull the air down into the lobes of our lungs, and then we're going to expand it up into our apex, and then we're going to exhale comfortably. Okay, ready? First round of 5. Here we go. Obnoxious. Put your tongue to the roof of your mouth. I want you to get outside of your head. Find something in your outside environment to focus on. If you've got tingling in your fingers or tingling in your toes, that is a great sign. If you're slightly lightheaded, that is a great sign. 10 seconds. Deep breath in. And I want you to hold for 10 seconds. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhale. Now, before we start our next round of 10 breaths, already you should feel a little more relaxed. Oxygen instantly changes the tension in our tissues. If you actually were to look at the molecular structure of an emotion, like if you said to me, Gary, what is a mood? What is an emotional state? I would tell you that is a collection of neurotransmitters bound to oxygen. So if you said, well, what's happiness? Okay, that's so much serotonin, so much dopamine, so much norepinephrine, so much ephedrine, boom, you have the emotion happiness. The interesting fact is that elevated emotional states, passion, elation, joy, arousal, happiness, all of those, hell yeah, I won the lottery emotions, right? The elevated emotions, they actually have oxygen as a part of their molecular structure. Do you know that without oxygen, you cannot experience those emotional states? This is why no human being has ever woken up laughing. You do not have the oxidative state to experience laughter right out of deep sleep. Can you wake up angry? Yes. If you want to do an experiment tonight, just wait till your spouse falls asleep and give them a good deep pinch. Right? They will wake up angry. Why is that? Because anger, despair, jealousy, resentment, all of these low tier emotions do not require oxygen. They are readily available emotions to all of us every single day. They are easily accessible. The elevated emotional tiers are not. So if you want to elevate your mood and elevate your emotional state, there is scientific evidence that getting oxygen into the brain so that those neurotransmitters can combine and form elevated emotional states is very, very valid. So one of the things that we're doing is just elevating our mood. A lot of people tell me that when they do their first round of breath work, they feel a burst of tingling in their fingers and a burst of tingling in their feet. That is a great sign. First of all, it's not a good sign that you lacked oxygen in your extremities, but it's a great sign that this is working. Okay? And remember, the breath hold is a very important part of the breath work. We're only doing 30-second breath holds now in the group, but when you're on your own, I want you to exhale, and hold your breath as long as you can. You will not pass out. Put your tongue to the roof of your mouth, get outside of your head, and let that carbon dioxide build up in your bloodstream. Carbon dioxide is the main vasodilator. Have you ever seen somebody that's actually having a panic attack, or somebody who actually has, if you had the misfortune around being somebody who's actually had a traumatic event and they're going into shock, you know what they have them do? They have them breathe into a bag. Why do they have them breathe into a paper bag? Because what's happened is they've hyperventilated, they've expired all of the carbon dioxide from their bloodstream, and they've got actually too much oxygen buildup, and their veins and their vascular system is constricting. If you want to dilate it, you have somebody breathe into a bag and breathe carbon dioxide. When they put carbon dioxide back into the bloodstream, it vasodilates. Then when you take the bag away, that oxygen can make it to the tissue. So if you've ever seen that happen, there's a real rationale for that. It's to build up carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is the main vasodilator in the body. So we are going to tap into the power of that gas in between rounds of breath work. Okay? So this time we're going to do a round of 10. At the end of 10, we're going to exhale and we're going to hold for the full 30 seconds with our tongue pressed against the roof of our mouth. All right, we ready, guys? Here we go, 10 breaths. You should be nice and lightheaded. You may have tingling and ringing in your ears. You might be feeling the temperature change in your neck. Your head might even itch. Tongue to the roof of your mouth. You're feeling the power of oxygen in the body. Get outside of your head. Find that noise to focus on in the distance. And we're going to take a deep breath in. Ready? Hold. Tongue to the roof of your mouth. Getting outside of our head. Focusing on our environment. Ten seconds. And let it out. Wow. I actually feel really good. So on this third round, we're going to try to push ourselves to 15 breaths. If you got really lightheaded after 5 breaths or really lightheaded after 10 breaths, just drop out early when you don't feel like you can push through it anymore, and do your breath hold at that time. And then wait for us, and we'll do the inhale together. Don't overcomplicate breath work. This is just about getting oxygen into the body. You know, when you get to the advanced stages of breath work, I went through the Wim Hof certification course. I still haven't gone to the Pyrenees Mountains with him. I was supposed to go last February. But that, you really need to understand breath work to modulate the heat regulation in your immune system. But you're going to get online if you go down the rabbit hole of breath work, nasal breathing on each side, expanding your sinuses on each side, tongue to the roof of your mouth. There's all kinds of different techniques. This is the most valid and easiest way to do breath work. Don't allow yourself to overcomplicate it. I know a lot of you guys out there like to overthink things. Don't overthink it. This is just about getting oxygen into the body and allowing carbon dioxide to build up. That's the simple objective of breath work. Okay, we are going to do now 15 breaths. At the end of our 15th breath, we are going to exhale and do an extended hold for 45 seconds. I'm going to push it past 30 seconds. I want you to see if you can make it to 45 seconds. Brianna, will you give me a timer that I can see? You can start it when I get to the end of the breath work. And then we're going to do an extended inhale and hold. And then we're just going to relax. You will find that as you work your way from 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 to 25 to 30 breaths, and you start to do this regularly, your breath hold will get over a minute. It will get to a minute and a half. It'll eventually approach 2 minutes. It'll go to 2.5 minutes. Most of you will top out around 2.5 minutes. Some of you will make it to 3. And if you really get good at breath work, you'll push your extended hold all the way to 4 minutes. I hold for 4 minutes now when I do breath work by myself in between each round of 30 breaths. And I am not panicking like I really need to breathe. It feels very natural to me. So here we go. Last round, we're going to do 15 breaths. Ready? Here we go. Tongue to the roof of your mouth. Get outside of your head. Find that noise in the causeway. That airplane going overhead. That voice in the background. Keep your tongue pressed against the roof of your mouth. See if you can make it with me another 10 seconds. Fight that urge to breathe. Get ready to take a deep breath in. Here we go. And hold. I'm going to try to make it to 30 seconds. Keep your tongue pressed against the roof of your mouth. Keep your chin up. We're going to try to make it another 10 seconds. Here we go, and let it out. Woo! I feel amazing. There's another technique that I do sometimes when I do breath work. It's very simple. It's called tapping or cupping. In Ayurvedic medicine, they actually call it brushing. And all you do is just take a cupped hand and tap your skin. Just pad your skin underneath of your armpits to get your lymph draining, underneath of your armpits here to get your lymph draining. Just actually slap your skin all around. Just actually tapping your skin. This actually gets the lymphatic fluid moving, helps wake you up. It also dilates. When you contact the surface of the skin like this, you're actually dilating your blood vessels. The reason why your skin turns red is because there's blood rushing to the surface of your skin. Tapping is very healthy for you. You actually have abdominal lymph nodes right in here. You have axillary lymph nodes up here that actually drain your breast and drain your arms right underneath of your arms. Remember, our lymphatic system is a static system. You can even slap your face. Don't beat yourself up. Oh, it feels so good. So tap your skin, your face, your neck, your carotids, right? Just tap those a little bit. Tap your axillary lymph nodes. Tap your inguinal lymph nodes right down here. That's another way to really help that oxygen reach the surface of your skin, the surface of your tissues. One of the reasons why our skin tends to age faster as we get older is something called angiogenesis slows down, which is the formation of new blood vessels that feed the surface of the skin. So collagen, elastin, and fibrin, as well as new blood vessel growth, all require new blood vessels. Do you know what causes new blood vessels to sprout? Do you know what causes the tip of an artery to actually sprout and begin to grow new roots? Carbon dioxide. When you actually increase the level of carbon dioxide in your tissue, the body intelligently interprets this as a need for more blood flow. So when somebody is becoming more cardiovascularly conditioned, they are actually growing new tributaries, new capillaries that are sprouting off of their arteries to actually get more oxygen to the tissue and pull more carbon dioxide out of the tissue. We measure people's conditioning in professional sports by something called VO2 max. It's the volume of oxygen max, right? And a VO2 max is basically a measurement of how efficiently do I get oxygen from my lungs out to my tissue and get the carbon dioxide from my tissue back to my lungs. If we were otherwise equal athletes and I was able to exchange gases faster than you, then I would be more conditioned. I would be more cardiovascularly conditioned than you. So one of the ways that we can condition our cardiovascular system is by encouraging it to grow new blood vessels. This is called angiogenesis, new blood vessels. So angiogenesis is where carbon dioxide builds up in our tissues, lactate builds up in our tissues, which, by the way, it's not lactic acid that makes your muscles burn, it's hydrogen. Hydrogen ions. That's an old myth that lactic acid is what causes muscles to burn. It's not the lactic acid. Lactate, the acid that's secreted by these cells, is actually put back into the Krebs cycle and used as a fuel. But when we do breath work, we're actually getting more oxygen to the surface of our skin. If we actually add the tapping, we're encouraging that blood flow to reach the surface of our skin. The lymphatic system that we have is a static system. It doesn't have the pressure of the heart behind it, right? And this is where we drain all of the toxins from our tissues. So if you've ever heard that, I always talk about wearing compression gear on really long flights. If you fly internationally, that you should wear compression gear. I like the Lululemon copper compression gear because it comes up to something called the popliteal fossa. It helps the fluid and the lymph from your legs drain into the vascular system so you can urinate that out. So in the mornings, if we're not doing extensive exercise, we want to move that lymphatic system. And that tapping mechanism can actually help you move lymph around your body so you can get waste out of your body. You know, it's just our sedentary lifestyle, which is the leading cause of all-cause mortality. We know that sitting is the new smoking. Very often, you know, when we wake up, we don't have the motivation. We don't have that old school positive aggression towards working out. So we go from the bed to the bathroom, from the bathroom to the coffee maker, from the coffee maker, we get dressed, we shower, and we just head out to work. If you insert breath work, I mean, how much better do you feel, right? I mean, how many of you that maybe were not thinking about whether or not you had the energy to work out now are like, you know what? I actually could go out for a walk right now. I actually feel like I could pick up some light weights. I could maybe do some air squats. I could do some lunges. I could maybe do a plank or a push-up. I mean, so this is the power of breath work. I use it to transition into my day, always working out after I do breath work. I want to wake my body up. I want to prepare it for the day, and then I go in and do my breath work. If you guys have watched my real morning routine, I actually took a phone with me the other morning, accidentally posted a picture of myself in the buff, so I apologize if you had to suffer through that. My whole social media team was like, oh my God, Gary, take it down, take it down, take it down. I was standing in front of the mirror, so I made sure I didn't point the camera at the mirror, but I took a little bit of a low angle, and so that was embarrassing. Maybe I should open an OnlyFans page. But I got up in the morning and I just showed how I went from my bed to my sink, I splash water on my face, I brush my teeth, post a picture of myself in the nude, and then I go into a cold plunge. We're going to talk about this next month when we do the cold plunge challenge, or you can do a cold shower, and then I dry off. I come down the hall. I usually get in a red bed for 10 minutes. It's okay if you don't have a red light bed. And then I grab my coffee. That's my reward for that little circuit in the morning, and I go right outside. I expose my skin, and I start my breath work. After breath work, I am ready for the day. I've hydrated with hydrogen water. I've taken a half a teaspoon of pink Himalayan sea salt. I've taken metal and chemical free cleanse. None of those actually will break a fast. And then when I'm on my way down to the gym, I just add perfect aminos. I get all 8 essential amino acids. This stuff will cost you, it's not expensive. You've pulled toxins out of your body prior to the breath work. You're circulating all of those adaptogens through your body to actually pull heavy metals, mycotoxins, mold spores, all kinds of things. And you've taken all 91 essential minerals. If you can't get Baja Gold, get the Celtic sea salt. These are very inexpensive ways to give your body the basics, the fuel that it needs to start its day. Remember this, we need 8 essential amino acids, we need 3 essential fatty acids, and we need 91 essential minerals. You get all 8 essential amino acids from that. You get all 91 essential minerals from that. And then all you need are the fatty acids, which I take an EPA, DHEA fish oil, but I don't do that until around noon when I'm actually about to eat, because the oils will actually break your fast. If you're not fasting, then feel free to use an MCT oil or a really good EPA, DHEA oil in your coffee, and you can get your fats in the morning, proteins in the morning, and your 91 essential minerals. It's astounding how far away we've gotten from the basics. I always say that Mother Nature gives us 3 things, right? It gives us magnetism, oxygen, and light. We get magnetism from the earth. The earth has a magnetic field. It's called a low Gauss field. We're going to talk about this in another challenge too, but grounding and earthing is a very real thing, right? We poo-poo it because, number one, it's free and it's so accessible. So we don't like to think that something that's so readily available has such profound health implications, but it does. We are way disconnected from Mother Nature. We were meant to spend 85% of our time outside. We spend more than 97% of our time indoors. Just think about that for a second. We spend 97% of our time indoors. We wake up in a covered house, we get into a covered garage, we enter a covered car, we drive to a covered parking lot, we go into a covered office, we walk through a covered breezeway, to a covered coffee shop, back to a covered office, to a covered garage, to a covered car, to a covered garage, back to our house. And maybe we go out to get the mail at the end of our driveway. And so modern day America has aggressively pursued comfort, and we are just disconnected from Mother Nature. So if you really want to biostack your breath work, then if you're in a warm climate, or in summertime, if you're in a cold climate, you want to take your shirt off, expose your skin to sunlight, touch the surface of the earth, either sit on the ground or touch the ground, face in the direction of the sun, and do your breath work while you face the sun. You're getting magnetism, oxygen, and light. I mean, you will feel amazing if you do that. Sometimes, because I'm on the 21st floor of a building up here, I don't get a chance to ground. I use a PEMF mat. But when I do, and you've seen those videos, I will go down into the park here in the Gables, and I will just sit on the surface of the earth, or I'll sit on the sand of the beach. I'll face the sun, and I'll do breath work, touching the surface of the earth, biostacking magnetism, oxygen, and light. So we get oxygen from the air, magnetism from the earth, and light from the sun. Again, when you look at the first 45 minutes of the day, what we call first light. First light is really amazing light, because for the first 45 minutes of the day, as the sun is cresting the horizon, there is no UVA and no UVB rays. None of the damaging rays of the sun that actually, accelerate the aging of our skin. You get healthy, natural blue light. And when this form of light that you cannot see passes through your eyes, it resets your cortisol and your melatonin receptors. First light will do more for you in your sleep cycle that evening than just about any other sleep routine that you can do. People have a lot of different sleep routines, taking a warm shower, a hot bath, doing breath work, all of which is great, keeping the lights dim in your bedroom, getting electronics 6 feet from your head when you sleep, not getting screen time and junk blue light, the actual junk food of light, that junky blue light that comes out of our iPhones. But if you were able to expose your skin and your eyes to first light in the morning, do your breath work while you're getting first light, you just watch how well you sleep that night, right? It's a down regulation of melatonin. It's an up regulation of cortisol, the natural waking hormone, but it's a natural up regulation of cortisol. And then cortisol trails off throughout the day, has another spike in the afternoon, but it trails off throughout the day. So you have that sense of calm and not being agitated. And then think about this, our adrenal glands, which sit on the top of our kidneys. For most of us that wake up and have no morning routine, we don't do any breath work, we don't exercise in the morning, we don't move our bodies, and we're exhausted, and we get to the office and stressful events start to happen to us, or we're trying to get the kids in the car to go to school and it's a full contact sport, or we're trying to get the kids ready for school. What happens is our adrenal glands kick in, and they actually start to secrete cortisol. They start to rise. They start to give rise to a hormone called adrenaline, which is, why fighters actually don't feel pain during a fight. They're high on adrenaline. And most of us are fueling our mornings with stress, which releases adrenaline and releases cortisol, and it gives us a fake stimulatory sense of being awake. Well, you can down-regulate that in the mornings and be high on your own supply. You can be high on oxygen and circulation and blood flow instead of being high on adrenaline and cortisol, right? And eventually, when we look at people's blood work that have been under stress for prolonged periods of time because they don't take the time to be selfish in the morning and take a little bit of time for self-care, we find that their adrenal glands are fried. Sometimes their cortisol down in the single digits. Their body can't even produce it anymore because it's so exhausted. So this is going to change the trajectory of a lot of people's lives. Simple breathwork routine, 3 rounds, eventually of 30 breaths, every morning with an extended breath hold in between. I want you to now start to make a commitment, especially after tomorrow, that you're going to do this every day for the next 7 days, because you're going to wake up on day 8 and your body is going to go, I want that. I want that feeling. It's going to be the new thing that your body craves. I keep calling it my drug of choice because I want you to know how powerful this is. Very few things other than maybe a cold plunge make you feel better for longer. And the fact that it is free and so accessible, so few people actually do it. And I'm trying to change the world by getting tens of millions of people to start doing breath work in the morning. God, if we could just shift the mood of people in this country and maybe start talking about what we have in common instead of the differences that we have, we could make a real impact. So I know there's lots of questions. Gary, can you recommend other light companies if we cannot afford the bed? We also make a light panel. Juve makes excellent light panels. We make a light panel at 10x that is a fraction of the price of the bed, but it is still as powerful as the bed. So if you want to start with light indoors, you can get the light panels. They'll go actually from about the top of your skull down to about the middle of your thighs, and they're on a stand. You wheel it over top of your bed, and then hydraulically just move it right down on top of your bed. I mean, on top of your body. Any products you're supporting only deliver in the U.S. All the products I'm supporting only deliver in the U.S. Okay, so I think the mineral salt, the Perfect Aminos, and the Echo Go all ship outside the U.S. But I will double check on that. Is first light at sunrise or before that? It's at sunrise when you can actually see the sun. Right? There is some light coming over the horizon early, and that's great light too. But from the time the sun breaks the horizon for 45 more minutes, you're not getting any of those harmful rays. So, morning mouth rinse. Can you explain? Yes. Morning mouth rinse is actually a pretty ancient practice. They do it in Ayurvedic medicine. It's where you actually wake up in the morning, and before you do oil pulling, you take a cup of filtered water and you put it in your mouth and you swish it and you swallow it. Believe it or not, that bacteria is actually very beneficial for your gut. It's actually very beneficial for your stomach. So yes, bacteria builds up in our mouth overnight. Excessive sterilization of the mouth is not good. Just like excessive hand sterilization is not good. There are some hospitals that actually took hand sanitizers for their clinical teams out of the hospital because it was increasing the transmission of germs. So in the morning, if you take this, take a glass of water, put enough in it to fill your mouth, put it in your mouth, swish with that water and swallow, and then brush your teeth. I'm sure that's the technique they were referring to. What does the tongue on the roof of your mouth do? It actually completes a circuit to something called the pineal gland. And our pineal gland has a tendency to get calcified over time. And so when we press our tongue to the roof of the mouth, we're actually completing a pineal circuit. And that's really, really good for you. Cerebrospinal fluid gets up and reaches the pineal gland. And so over time, you're going to notice a level of mental clarity, like short-term recall, focus, waking energy. If you're an athlete and you begin to do breath work in the morning, you might notice incremental increases in hand-eye coordination, speed, timing, and agility. It's a very, very powerful technique. All right, guys. So I hope that you guys got value again this morning. I love the fact that so many thousands and thousands of you downloaded this breathwork guide and shared the breathwork guide. Please don't forget to join me tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock in the morning for day 3. We're going to try to turn this into a habit. For those of you that are VIPs, we're going to shift over into the Facebook group so we can start to answer any questions you have. For the rest of you guys, I wish you a blessed morning. I want to see you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. And as always, to your health. And that's just science. VIPs, you'll see them on the Zoom. Oh, VIPs what? They're going to be on the Zoom. Oh, VIP.